The disqualification finish in mixed martial arts is actually pretty rare, about 30 in the history of all the major promotions combined. I suppose that's not too surprising given UFC 1 was billed as having no rules, no scores, and no time limits. But of course that's not true at all, and when the many rules in place for fighter safety are broken egregiously enough, the referee is forced to call the fight a victory for the party that was wronged. The usual culprit is a nasty enough illegal blow to stop a fight from continuing, but every once in a while, some truly bizarre action has resulted in a DQ. And it's high time we counted down the 10 most ridiculous we've ever seen. I'm Tommy from MMA On Point, and these are the 10 weirdest DQs in MMA history. But first, some rapid-fire honorable mentions, as there's truly just too much outlandishness to go around. There was Daniel Aguiar at RFA 15. After repeatedly challenging his opponent to step into his guard bro with no success, Mike Beltran was forced to DQ him for timidity. Shades of Nick Serra's DQ loss at Elite XC Primetime, but at least his came from sheer exhaustion. Alex Andrade, UFC 26. In Iowa, you were allowed to wear shoes in the fight so long as you didn't kick with them. Andrade just couldn't remember that rule though, and after one too many kicks got the DQ. Bronco Sikatich, one of only 4 ever Pride DQs, he desperately held on to the ropes to avoid takedowns by Prime Mark Kerr. The Smashing Machine almost got his own DQ when he went aggro after the fight was called. And my favorite honorable mention, Austin Batra at BFL 57, an AMI fighter who opted out of a cool Mark Hunt walk-off KO and instead went with the double axe handle off Brett's rope. Shout out to Tom for covering this one a few years back. On to the list. Number 10. Michel Pereira versus Diego Sanchez. Our first entry is still warm from the oven, but make no mistake, it's a worthy bit of wackiness. Tough Season 1 Highlander Diego Sanchez landed himself a co-main event slot for Fight Night 167 less than a month ago against Michel Pereira, but things were not going well. Sanchez was getting battered for the better part of 3 rounds and heading towards certain defeat on the cards. That was until the Nightmare caught an illegal knee to the head, opening up a cut. The doctor okayed a return to action, and Sanchez seemed relatively coherent, but referee Jason Herzog needed to hear it from Diego. In the unusually lengthy convo that followed, Sanchez asked Herzog if the result would be a DQ win if he couldn't continue, but the referee didn't want to outright say it, and without the ability to speak with self-awareness coach Joshua Fabia, Diego decided on what he called a smart veteran decision and took the DQ win. As you can imagine, the controversial ending sparked debate and ire across the MMA community. Now that's some Diego entertainment. Number 9. John Jones versus Matt Hamill. I really wish Nevada would overturn this one, just so I don't have to hear Joe Rogan explaining it every single time John Jones is walking out for a fight. Dateline, the Tough Heavyweights finale 2009. Johnny Bones is taking on Matt Hamill in the co-main event, and JBJ is doing what JBJ does, being the best light heavyweight in the world. After chucking Hamill to the ground and dislocating his shoulder, Jones brutally smashed his face in from the mount, throwing 61 strikes in about a minute. Unfortunately, 2 of those were the dreaded and deadly 12-6 elbows. Referee Steve Mazzagatti called a stop to the action to take a point away from Bones, but Hamill, in a bloody heap on the canvas, was in no condition to continue after the beating he took. Nevada decided to review the finish using replay, and since the elbows did cause some damage, it was all she wrote for JBJ's perfect career record. Jones took the DQ in stride, telling Joe Rogan everything happens for a reason. Until years later, when he and the UFC were actively looking into having the ruling changed. Their campaign as of yet has not been successful. Number 8. Anderson Silva versus Yushin Okami. Honestly, this is the most impressive DQ finish ever. The referee could have at least acknowledged how awesome it was. Just 5 months before he would make his UFC debut, Anderson Silva was competing in the opening round of the Rumble on the Rock welterweight tournament against Yushin Okami. Yushin scored a takedown on the Spider in the first and was postured up in his guard, contemplating his next move. Before he could really come to any sort of conclusion, Anderson blasted Okami right in the face off his back with an upkick that just defied the laws of physics. Yushin was splayed out on the mat. Anderson was going crazy celebrating, but you can't kick a downed opponent in the face on the ground, no matter how cool it is. And Silva would lose via DQ. Anderson took issue with Yushin and the officials afterwards, saying he was told that you could kick in the face so long as you were on your back, and that Okami was okay to continue, but chose a cowardly win. The Spider would get his revenge in the second round of their rematch 5 years later. Number 7. Eric Silva versus Carlo Prater. Hell hath no fury like Joe Rogan with a microphone after a controversial finish with which he disagrees. Eric Silva was that new hotness going into his UFC 142 bout with Carlo Prater. He came into the promotion with a 12-1 record as the Jungle Fight welterweight champion and KO'd Luis Ramos in his debut in just 40 seconds. His second bout took even less time. Silva swarmed Prater, and 29 seconds in, the fight was over after a barrage of nasty strikes on the ground. The only problem was Mario Yamasaki ruled it a DQ win for Carlo due to what he believed to be illegal strikes to the back of the head. Joe Rogan was more than skeptical of the call after seeing the replay and, in a bizarre move, interrogated Yamasaki right in the middle of the cage.
Mario, what was it about this that made you want to make this a disqualification? It looks fine from here.
The two watched the replay, and the flustered referee didn't have much in the way of answers. As the fight was in Brazil, it was the UFC's call on the ruling, and they ultimately decided, given the circumstances, they would be unable to review the matter. So despite Joe Rogan, the loss stands to this day. Number 6. Konstantin Gluhov versus Mikhail Gazayev. There's probably not a single issue that's caused more DQ finishes and controversies than that of the definition of a downed opponent.
If you want to play smart and take advantage of the rules, that's not my fault, I'm fighting.
And at M1 Challenge 44, when Konstantin Gluhov took on world-class wrestler Mikhail Gazayev, the concept was pushed to its very limit. Gazayev had a clever and sport-breaking idea of keeping a knee down nearly the entire fight, as he looked for an opening on takedowns to negate the dangerous kicks of Gluhov, who had 31 KO TKOs between his MMA and kickboxing careers. And things were going frustratingly well. By the third round, Mikhail had scored 4 takedowns and a considerable amount of control time on his confused foe. Konstantin didn't really have much in the way of an answer to this problem, but decided he'd seen enough of this bullshit and KO'd Gazayev with a head kick even though his knee was still down. The crowd loved it, and Gluhov celebrated afterwards as if he'd won. I guess novel strategies are cool until you come up against a guy who doesn't even care if he gets DQ'd. Number 5. Hashin Neri Gillespie versus Stelios Theo. Having a reputation as someone who regularly dismisses instructions by referees is probably a bad look. Going into the lightweight title fight between Hashin Neri Gillespie and Stelio Theo at Fight Star Championship 13, referee Daniel Movahedi was informed that Gillespie wasn't the biggest fan of authority. He'd been defiant with a referee in a previous bout for the promotion and was DQ'd for an illegal knee. Hashin started off this fight strong with 2 shots to the junk in round 1 and followed that up in the second by grabbing the cage. Movahedi chalked up the cup shots to inexperience, but he couldn't let the cage grab go without a point deduction. Gillespie was having none of that business. You can't take a point away from me if you can't touch me. When the ref caught up with him and took his arm again, the title contender ripped himself away, forcing the referee to call the fight. The two would continue to jostle until Movahedi finally asked his team to remove him from the cage. They did not. Being a referee must be so fun. Number 4. Eric Prindle versus Thiago Santos. Revenge is a dish best served with a heaping side of irony. Bellator heavyweights Thiago Santos and Eric Prindle had met once prior to their October 2012 bout at Bellator 75. It was the Season 5 heavyweight tournament final a year prior. Santos accidentally ended Eric's night with a well-placed shot to his sack, and the fight was ruled a no contest. Smash cut to their rematch, same positional situation, but the roles are reversed. Prindle is standing looking for an opening, and Santos is on his back. The referee ironically shouts, "Don't kick the groin."
Don't kick the groin.
Referee saying, "Don't kick the groin."
Seconds before Prindle decides he's Anderson Silva and throws an axe kick to the stomach, which misses completely and blasts Thiago's manhood full force. The "oh shit" from Eric is a pretty good indication that this was entirely by accident. Santos would not get up off the ground for the entirety of the rest of their time in the cage. He might still be there today. Because Santos was stationary, the referee decided the foul was enough to warrant a DQ, and thankfully for both of their future children, a third fight was never booked. Number 3. Gilbert Yvel versus Ate Backman. I've not run the numbers, but I can tell you with certainty you won't find too many fighters in MMA history that have 3 DQ losses. Gilbert Yvel's first came at the Pancration European Championship 1998 when he bit his opponent. His second against Don Fry at Pride 16 when he tried to gouge his eyes out. This is all standard villain work, nothing too special. It's Gilbert's third and final DQ loss against Ate Backman at Fight Festival 12 that is his opus. After nearly falling over the ropes while in the clinch, the referee stopped stopped the action momentarily to resituate the two fighters. For whatever reason, Ivel wasn't a big fan of the idea of being reset in the clinch. The three parties jostled around a bit, and finally, after one too many attempts for Gilbert's liking, he dropped the referee with a hard left and for good measure kicked the guy on the ground. As you can imagine, this didn't go over well, and Ivel was DQ'd. The referee took it like a champ though, back on his feet in no time, although he should probably go to a hospital. Gilbert for the rest of his career would carry the stigma of his reputation, with several commissions even refusing to license him for bouts on a number of occasions. Number 2. Drew Chapman versus Irvin Zayela. To create a legacy for yourself in just a single professional fight is truly remarkable. It's just unfortunate for Drew Chapman that it's for this insanity. Drew was kicking off the LFA 36 card against fellow newly minted pro Irvin Zayela when he was handed a gift by the MMA gods. While diving in for a hammer fist, Ayala knocked himself out cold on Chapman's knee. What a lucky break. Your first pro outing, and your opponent does all the work for you. It's understandable that at that point, a fighter would want to celebrate. And Drew did, by jumping onto Irvin's unconscious body and doing a flip off of it. Oops, you're disqualified and suspended for 90 days, and the video of your insane decision has 2.7 million views. The fighter would later apologize for the incident, citing his emotions getting the best of him and his subconscious need to flip after winning something. He certainly came across as remorseful though.
Take this 90-day suspension, regroup, think about what I did, ensure that it doesn't happen again, and get back in the ring and live up to my name, the Honorable.
Chapman has not yet fought again since. Number 1. Vyacheslav Datsik versus Vitaly Skraba. Where to even start with this guy? First of all, the entry is technically about the Vitaly Skraba fight at Pancration Russian Championship 2001 because it's actually his only MMA DQ loss. But there's so much more going on here. Datsik would be DQ'd in the first round after repeated attempts at eye gouging, not even attempts he was trying to hide honestly. Vyacheslav was also DQ'd in a kickboxing bout when he randomly decided to take a shot at the referee and then slam him over the ropes into the crowd. In a bout he was not DQ'd in at the Pancration Eurasian Championship 2001, Datsik grabbed and squeezed his opponent's testicles and then after being TKO'd, came rushing back like some kind of zombie only to get worked by the referee. His MMA career stalled and 9 years of incarceration started, including a brief time when he escaped a mental health facility and tried to seek asylum in another country. The Russian fighter hasn't yet competed in MMA since doing his time, but last December returned to kickboxing. Huge shout out to the pride of the West Midlands, Tom Moore, for putting his editing sorcery to work on this video. Follow him on Twitter at TomMJMoore. Thanks for watching. Please give us a like and subscribe. We've got 3 new videos or more for you every single week. Let us know what you thought of the video in the comments below. Follow On Point MMA on Twitter, and have yourself a wonderful day.